Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 20.01.01. This will cover the work undertaken between the 7th of January to the 20th of January. Our sprint goal for this sprint has been to continue with projects that offer performance gain and click saving options within the UI. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint we've been working on introducing a new right-click menu to all main entities in the system. This will give users access to workflow wherever they are on the page. On the requirements, we've updated the interview arrange with drop-down list and the offer contact drop-down list to be partial view lookups. This is for consistency within the system, but also to offer a decent performance gain when opening a requirement record. We've updated the quick search so that the user is given more info about the record within the results and will have the ability to select the fields which are shown. We've been working on the text editor within Colleague 7, which is CK Editor 4, to address issues with images and paragraphs and fonts. The work on this has resulted in several bug fixes, but this will carry over into the next sprint while it's implemented. We've updated the sales invoice templates to support uploaded templates, and our online merge field library has been updated with the section of sales invoices. We've introduced a keep option to search results, so you can remove all records other than the ones you've selected. We've added the source field to the candidate details partial view on the requirements. This will default to the candidate source held against the candidate record, but will also allow you to edit this if different. There are also plans to do further things with this field with regards to auto-populating and ROI reporting with the use of this field. On the interview form, when you click the create diary entry, it will now pre-populate the diary form with the interview details to save time. And we've investigated further performance gains when using lookup fields, and this led to a development piece which will be undertaken in the next sprint. We'll now go through a demonstration on the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the first point to go through is the right-click menu, which has been introduced against all main entity records. When I say main entity records, what I mean is candidates, companies, contacts, requirements, interviews, offers, and placements. Whenever you're within any of these entity records, if you were essentially within any of the white spaces, not over a field, but within any of the white spaces, if you right click, what you're going to see is the options available against the record, both in terms of the toolbar bar and obviously off the view more menu. They're going to be made available to you from a right click menu. So these work exactly as if you had run the workflow from selecting the toolbar options. Basically, it's just another means to trigger that workflow. From a user familiarity, it's obviously attuned to the functionality that was available in version 6, so it's just to maintain that consistency for the user to be able to expect to be able to right click a piece of functionality, right click within a record and be able to run functionality from the right click menu. So that's been implemented there. When you're over a text field, the right click menu will be as per normal, because obviously you still want to maintain the copy and paste and undo functionality that's available off the default browser menu when you're within text fields. And also if you were on any links, as an example, so if you're on any links like these, if you right click there, you'll still get the options to obviously still enable the open a new window or open a new tab options that are obviously available off the browser. But other than that, wherever you are on the page, right click and you'll get the options available. If you did want the default browser window, instead of this, a second right click on the menu will make the default browser window appear. So you've got one right click will always make this appear first, and then if you want a second right click will make the other default browser appear in terms of the right click menu. But that's the right click menu on 7. The next point to go through are the updates in relation to the quick search. So the quick search has now received an update, which essentially means that the title of when you're loading the quick search results, the title of the record will appear as the main description, and then the fields will appear beneath, and these are all of the fields which have been selected as columns against the entity types within the selection screens. So in terms of the layout of the quick search, there'll be more rows to each individual entity, but essentially you're given more information about the entity when you're doing a quick search, and it will load the titles first, and then it will prompt a loading details watermark, if you like, as it loads through the rest of the field data. So from a performance perspective, we've managed that. In terms of the links as well, the phone numbers will be hyperlinked in a way so that they are as if you were running click to dial functionality. So if you wanted to click on any numbers, it will trigger the telephony interface that you're having integrated with Colleague 7, would that be Teams or some other. Also, if you click on any URLs, any website URLs, it will open into a new tab, that URL. We also have a plan in the not too distant future to hyperlink all email addresses, and then on clicking on the email address, it would trigger the email form. We have to embed the email form into the quick search page, but that's being done in short term, so that will be coming as well. In terms of updating any of these, obviously from the selection screens, you have options that are available to you from here. It is our intention to add this options element up here, which we'll do shortly, and then what you have is a means to update any entity from that options overview. But as it stands, as part of this iteration, you're able to administer which columns you see. You just need to go into the selection screen, and from the options that are available here, select the fields you want to see, and that will dictate what appears against each quick search row. But that's the update that's been made to the quick search. The next point to cover is just the keep option that's available from search results now. So when running and I'll just run an example search here just to bring back some records. When running a search, whether that be from any entity type, you have this selected records drop down. What you're now able to do is select some records based on working through these, and off selected records you'll have an option called keep. So rather than remove, you've got an option for keep, and keep will basically keep all of the records that you've selected and remove everything else. So it's a kind of reverse to the remove concept. It's just the other way around. So that's the keep functionality that's been added to all search results within this release. The last point to cover is just covering the several updates that we've made within the candidates tab of the requirements. So when in the requirements, there's been some updates that have been made to the candidates details section. If we go into an example candidate detail here, what you can see is we've added firstly the source. So the candidate source is now available here, and this is both a drop-down option, but also it can be free text as well. So if you wanted to put in there a campaign reference or an ad reference of some kind, rather than specifically reference a specific source body or company, then you could use it for that purpose as well. But the idea being is that when you shortlist or longlist a candidate into a requirement, their candidate source is going to come across by default, but you can also edit this as well as you see fit. We've got some further development on route, which is going to do things in terms of automatically populating source from documents received when you're looking at specific email addresses that will prompt to be related to a certain source, and also from the from a Broadbean perspective, if you were dealing with a certain application, when these applications come through, they reference a source. So having this source also pre-populated against the candidate and pre-populated against any associated requirement if they're long listed. Again, it's just trying to build in all of that ROI so it's automated within the system. So step one is the addition of this source field and the manner in which it works, and then we'll build in that automation in future PBIs. Also, another element that was done in this sprint was the addition of the interview stage. So when you run an interview in the system, you've got this option of mousing over to see the interview stage that's there, but we've also now added interview stage within here. This is all in build up to the work that we'll do over the course of this quarter or the tail end of the quarter, where you can update the columns that you view within this area. That's the idea of what we're working to. So it's just in build up to that, adding that there, because we've had some requests for that option to be made available within here. And the last point to cover is on the interview. Well, there's two elements to the interview, in fact. One is that when you run the interview now, what you notice is that arrange with is now set up like this, where if you want to select the contact, you would do a lookup for the associated contacts, and find it that way and assign that way rather than it being a drop down list. We've done it that way because it offers performance gain essentially, but also consistency wise. But it offers a significant performance gain in terms of opening a requirement, especially if you have a contact with multiple companies. And also an update has been made in relation to creating the diary. So when you're running the interview workflow and you're specifying a date, let's say here at this time, when you hit create diary now, what you'll see is that the subject will be the interview type, and it will reference the candidates, the job title, the company. So the actual subject is pre-populated for you. Also the start date, the time, and on the basis of your default settings, it's going to put an end time and end date there as well. So essentially, it's allowing for that single instance of clicking that essentially be pre-populated with all of that interview information, so you can just hit save. We're also working on a setting that will enable that creation of diary by standard, by automatic, but as part of this build, it's basically just the update of that create diary tick, just to save time in admin. So those are the updates that have been made within the requirement candidates tab. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 20.01.02, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.